Hello, my loves. Welcome to another episode. I'm doing it a little bit differently this time because you will notice that I've put 3 episodes back to back because I've had a few questions in my Instagram DMs and I'm going to answer each question as a separate episode. So these episodes I would have thought they'll potentially be shorter than the usual episodes that I do that are solo episodes. So that's why I'm giving you 3 in 1, but there'll be 3 separate ones. So the first question that I had that I would love to answer is, or the question was, how to stop binge purging at night when I'm definitely not restricting anymore. So first of all, why are we binging? So any kind of binge eating is in reaction to any kind of restriction. So that's physical restriction and emotional restriction or mental restrictions. It's the same thing. And so my first thing is I want to just share and just reiterate what binge eating is. There's a reason why you're binging. Binging is a natural biological response to restriction. And so the binging isn't the problem here, the purging is. So what I would love to ask you, the amazing soul that asked this question, is, are you really still not restricting? Because if you're binge purging at night, there's definitely some restriction that's going on. Otherwise, you wouldn't be binging. And so check in first with your potential physical restriction that's going on day to day for you. So dieters and chronic dieters, and again, speak from personal experience here, we need to eat a lot more food every day than what we think we need to eat. So I remember when I stopped dieting and then started my food freedom journey, I started allowing all foods. I mean, I had a long episode of just eating chocolate and that was about it, and hating myself for it. That was a mental restriction. But apart from that, when I started to eat actual like food and meals and things like that, I still wasn't eating enough for what my body needed. It felt like I was eating a lot because it was a lot more than I would usually eat, because I would usually go from diet food to binge food. There was like no in between. And so just take a look at your actual physical restriction if that is happening. It may or may not be, but I just want you to take a look at that. Are you genuinely, honestly eating enough? Because what you think might be enough may not be enough. So just practice eating more and see how that feels. And I've got more tips to go into that in a moment. But I didn't want to just brush over the physical restriction when you say that you're not physically restricting anymore. Are you definitely not? And the next thing I want to bring up is, of course, emotional restriction. So, emotional restriction is different to physical restriction. Physical restriction is not allowing yourself to either eat enough food accidentally, like I've just explained, or choosing not to on purpose, not to eat certain food groups or however many calories or whatever it may be. Whereas emotional restriction is very sneaky in terms of it shows up when you're shudding all over yourself when you're eating something. So I shouldn't be eating this, or I should have chose this option instead. It can look like judging yourself for your food choices. It can look like wishing that you didn't want to eat fill in the blank chocolate. It was always for me. So I would physically allow all foods, but then I would sit there as I was eating the chocolate and I would wish that I didn't really want to be eating this chocolate. And so it can be very sneaky and it's very hard to combat, but it's absolutely possible. And so just check in with yourself here and ask yourself, am I physically restricting even though I don't think I am? And where am I mentally restricting? Because it's not a case of am I emotionally or mentally restricting? It's the case of where am I emotionally restricting? Because otherwise you wouldn't be binging. Because binging is a natural biological response to any form of restriction, physically or emotionally. So are you perhaps still scared of certain foods? That's emotional restriction. So really get clear with yourself and honest with yourself and ask where you might potentially still be restricting emotionally and mentally. And then of course there comes the the fear of weight gain, which is most likely linked to the purging. So binging is completely okay. And one other thing that I wanted to say before I started talking about the purging behavior after the binge is, if you, and I did an episode on this, and I will link this below as well, if you absolutely are, you can guarantee and you're radically honest with yourself that you definitely are not physically restricting and you're definitely not emotionally restricting, there could be an underlying habitual safety kind of automatic response in the evening to what you used to do. And there's a lot I have to say about this. So I will link that below. It's definitely worth listening to or watching if you definitely are not physically or emotionally restricting, but then you still see yourself binge eating at night. And by the way, I have really bad heartburn, which is why I'm perhaps like talking weird and having to swallow. And this is my body telling me something. And so I'm going to sit with her later and be like, what is it you've got to tell me? It will be something I've eaten, but what I've eaten is usually fine in my body. So a little side note there. And let's move into the purging behavior then. So just to reiterate, it is okay to binge. It's a natural biological response to physical or and emotional restriction. The purge is there because when you purge, it relieves the anxiety, or at least it relieves most of it. It can feel like a form of release. It can feel like you're emptying yourself, or like you're clean from the inside out. I remember what that used to feel like, and it feels in a fucked up way. It feels good, which is why you do it, right? It relieves some of the anxiety from the binge. Now, I'm guessing or assuming at the root of why you purge is the fear of weight gain. And you don't trust your body to do what it needs to do in terms of having its own natural set point weight, in terms of digesting the food. You don't want to feel the feeling you would feel the next day if you kept the food inside you. Like, I get it. But there's a difference between binging and purging. You can binge and then, of course, look at whereabouts you've been restricting physically or emotionally. And you can desperately want to feel the urge to purge for the reasons I've just shared. And, everyone has their own reasons, but it's usually this like intense, overwhelming feeling of anxiety and the need to like fix it, in quotes, or do something about it, because underneath the anxiety is most likely the petrifying fear of weight gain. So the root cause, obviously the fear of weight gain, that's the best place to start, because then when you heal at the root, the behaviors just sort of like naturally dissipate themselves. And it can be something to do with not trusting your body. So not trusting your body to know how to digest it properly, or not trusting your body in terms of its own natural set point weight. Like the fear of getting bigger and bigger and bigger and never stopping getting bigger used to be a huge fear of mine. And so it comes back to body trust. There's a difference between having that deep, intense urge to purge and not actually doing the behavior. And this does take conscious effort, a lot of effort. And I've got actually some tips that I want to share with you to help with the diet binge purge cycle. But ultimately, you can feel that intense urge to purge and then not actually do it. And over time, it gets easier. So I'm going to give you some tips to stop the purging, because of course the binging is okay. It's welcomed. I know that sounds like I'm speaking like a complete crazy person right now, that the binges are welcomed, but they are, because the binging is a natural biological response to restriction. So ask yourself, where am I either physically and emotionally restricting, hence the binge eating? And then, like I say, listen to the episode of the habitual response to the binging as well. So the tips I wanted to give you to stop the purging is, number one is to eat more food. And this sounds pretty obvious, but this is based on building trust with your body. Your body needs to trust that there is enough food coming in a constant time every day. So it could look like eating every 2 to 3 hours. So let's say 8 o'clock in the morning, you have breakfast, 10:30, you have a snack, 1 o'clock, you have lunch, 3 o'clock snack, 6 o'clock in the evening dinner, and then 8 o'clock snack. I mean, of course, you can change it around to fit your day. And this can be super difficult to ask yourself to eat regularly when that's probably one of your biggest fears. But if you seriously want to stop purging and binging, obviously the binging isn't the problem, it's the purging. You need to be making sure you're eating enough food. And so number one is eat more food and eat every 2 to 3 hours. Number two is challenge emotional restriction. So I've shared with you like how it can be very sneaky, and a few things that I want to share with you in terms of mantras or affirmations that you can say to yourself when you notice the judgments you have towards the food choices you've perhaps made, or the shoulding all over yourself, like I shouldn't have had the brownie, I should have chose a nutritious lunch instead, or whatever it may be. You can just like, first of all, you need to physically relax, because your nervous system is in fight, flight, or freeze response when you feel the anxiety of I've done something wrong, I'm judging myself, this isn't okay, I'm going to gain weight, and all the fear systems that go into place and the thoughts and everything that happens after that. So first of all, just physically relax, like close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and then say these mantras or such like mantras to yourself. It's just food. I trust my body with what and how much to eat. The stakes are very low. And what I mean by that is, let's say you were in your car and you were texting when you were driving, which is obviously not okay. Don't do that. The stakes are pretty high because of the obvious, like you could cause an accident, you could kill somebody, you could kill yourself. The stakes are very high in that regard. In the regards to food, and perhaps eating more than you want to, or eating something that you don't think you should have, even though, of course, that's emotional restriction, the stakes are very low. It's literally just food. You're going to be okay. So that helped me have a different perception around the stakes being low. You could say, this is really powerful. What I want is what I need. So what I want is what I need. And that is trusting your natural biological cravings and instincts around food. I mean, this isn't to do with shopping and things like that. Like whatever you want is what you need. With food, it is, because it's a biological thing, right? So what I want is what I need. That was a powerful one for me. And it's safe and okay to eat the food I crave. It's safe and okay to eat the food I crave. So think of some for yourself, and this just helps to bring your nervous system back into the rest and digest. You're then able to access the prefrontal cortex of your brain, meaning you can bring logical thinking into it, you can reassure yourself. And then over time, when you've trained your brain to not continue to take action as if you are scared of certain foods, you need to train your brain that it's okay to eat these foods. Then over time, you will feel and you will believe and you will know that it's okay to eat these foods. So challenge emotional restriction is a big one, and that's number two. Number three, write yourself a letter to read. So when you've purged previously, or if you just feel into how that feels afterwards, because it feels pretty shit, and you most likely will say to yourself, this is the last day, tomorrow I'll start again, etc. Write yourself a letter for you to read when you're feeling that urge to purge again, to encourage you not to do it because of how shit you feel. So that's a big one. And all mantras, again, like mantras can be really helpful and really powerful in these situations. So mantras to say out loud whenever you feel the urge to purge can be, for example, I've got quite a few here. Purging is not the solution. Purging is just going to take me further down the hellhole of the eating disorder that I'm in. Purging damages my body and myself in so many ways. I can feel the urge, but I know it will pass. I choose recovery. I am strong enough to feel these feelings. It is safe to eat a lot of food. My body knows what to do with it. Okay, and this just takes practice over time. Support is really key as well. To get support, reach out to someone who gets it, who's been through it and has come out the other side. Number four is cost and gain. So I would love for you to write 2 columns, one on the left saying cost and then one on the right saying gain, and write down all the costs that you will have if you stay in this eating disorder. So all the bad, negative things that are keeping you that your life is looking like as you're stuck in this eating disorder. And then on the other side, I want you to write all the gains if you were to leave and let go of your eating disorder and live a life of food freedom and self-love. What would that bring into your life? What gains would that bring you? So it's so powerful to do this exercise and see them both side by side, the costs of staying where I am and the gains of choosing to change. So that's really powerful. I definitely invite you to do that. And number 5 is to celebrate your milestones for not purging. So you can like get help, get support from a friend or a coach or a mentor or a loved one, or all of those or a few of those. And together, get some little milestones, because you can track this like with sticky notes on your mirror or texting your friend every night or your coach or your mentor, like when you've not purged. And you can tally up how many days that has been. And then each milestone you reach, I would love for you to choose something amazing for you to do for yourself. So let's say after 1 week of not purging, is there something you want to buy yourself or treat yourself to, like a massage, for example? After 2 weeks of not purging, like what else can you do to celebrate? Oh, excuse me, to celebrate yourself, right? And then after like 3 months of not purging, can you treat yourself to a holiday or a spa day or something like that? Because it's so important to celebrate your success and your efforts. And then over time, it will just get so much easier to keep going further and further away from the eating disorder and then keep walking down that road to recovery, because there is an incredible life waiting for you on the other side. And then number 6 is to take some time to really do the deep body image work and face your fear of weight gain. Facing your fear of weight gain is different to actual weight gain. You can gain weight and still be scared of weight gain. So it's digging deep again with support with a professional and asking yourself, like, why am I so scared of weight gain? What does that mean to me? It doesn't necessarily mean you will gain weight, but what it is showing your brain is that you don't need to keep running away from anything that could potentially bring you to gain weight, because you're training your brain. So your brain is an organ, like your liver, like your kidneys, it's an organ. Your mind is the consciousness that gets to choose what to think. I mean, over time, your brain has built up and automatically thinks and feels things because of you've done it so many times in past experiences. However, you get to train your brain and you get to choose to think different things. And so if you train your brain that you can actually run into your fear and face your fears of weight gain, of fear foods, of anything that's scary, over time, it doesn't take that long either. Your brain starts to see like, oh, actually, she's not constantly running away from potential weight gain. Therefore, it must be safe now. And so then everything starts to shift from there. I mean, this is just like touching the surface of how your brain works and how your mind and brain is so different. They're not the same things, but something for you to think about. And I just want to let you know, if you don't know already, in November, so the 9th to the 13th of November, to be precise, I'm offering a free, completely free, I'm so excited to offer this, 5-day Body Love Binge group coaching experience. And so to sign up, just go to my website and I'll put the link below in this podcast as well. It's going to be 5 days of different activities we're going to do together, Zoom calls, trainings from me, worksheets, action steps, and all of that. So I would love to see you there if that feels good to you. And I hope you enjoyed this first question that I've answered. And if you have any questions at any time, I actually love answering questions and making episodes out of them. So feel free to send them to me, and I will see you very soon on the next question. So much love to you.